Hi, everybody. It's Harvard lawyer Lee. Today I want to talk about the big question. Is Scott Peterson going to go all the way from death row to being a free man? Scott Peterson is asking for a new trial, and he really might get one. In fact, the California Supreme Court ordered the Superior Court to re-examine Peterson's convictions. Of course, a new trial doesn't mean Scott Peterson definitely goes free. He might be convicted again. The state might offer a compromise plea deal to avoid a retrial, but it will be possible for the first time in nearly 20 years that Scott Peterson could walk out of prison. So let's talk about why Scott Peterson might get a new trial, because it's quite a story. Welcome to the channel. I'm Lee Wallace. I graduated with honors from Harvard Law School, and I've been a trial lawyer for more than 25 years. This channel is about the intersection between life and law. Scott Peterson's trial riveted the country in 2005. On Christmas Eve 2002, in 2002, Scott and Laci had been married 5 years, and Laci was nearly 8 months pregnant with the couple's first child, whom they had decided to name Connor. Scott Peterson left his very pregnant wife Laci making Christmas cookies and went out fishing. According to what he told police, he came home from fishing to find Laci was missing. 4 months later, the body of their unborn child washed up on the shores of the San Francisco Bay. 2 days later, Laci's badly decomposed body washed up. Scott Peterson was charged with murder. He was found guilty and sentenced to death by lethal injection. But now he's off death row and asking for a new trial. His motion isn't just a Hail Mary remote long shot. Now, before we get started, do me a favor. See that little button down there, the one that looks like a thumbs up? Smash that button. You will make the YouTube algorithm so happy and get this video out to more people. Then be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can come back for more clear, easy to follow explanations of the most interesting, newsworthy legal cases at the intersection of life and law. So on to Scott Peterson. I've done a video explaining the case, which I'll link at the end. But today I want to talk about the fact that the California Supreme Court overturned Scott Peterson's death sentence and also sent the case back for the judge to consider whether Scott Peterson should get a new trial. Why on earth would Scott Peterson get a new trial now? The issue that concerned the Supreme Court was potential juror misconduct by juror Rochelle Nice, known during the trial as Strawberry Shortcake because of the flamboyant fuchsia hair she sported at the time. Peterson's team says that Rochelle Nice gave false answers to some of the questions on the juror questionnaire because she wanted to get on the jury and make sure Scott Peterson was convicted. The Supreme Court asked the lower court to look into whether Rochelle Nice had committed prejudicial misconduct. Now, who is Rochelle Nice? Rochelle Nice was juror number 7, and one of the most interesting facts about her is that she almost didn't sit on the jury. First, she nearly left when the judge told her she could leave because her employment would not be paying her while she was on jury duty. She was passing by Scott Peterson's lawyer, who at the time wanted her to serve. After all, she had a brother in San Quentin and a mother who was getting methadone treatments. She hesitated, and the judge told her she could be reseated if she was willing to serve, so she returned to her seat. In fact, Scott Peterson's team says she was so eager to sit on the jury that she lied, that her family had agreed to help her so she would be financially able to handle the jury duty. Even then, Rochelle Nice was only an alternate juror. She finally made the jury after another juror was dismissed. After the trial, Rochelle became a lightning rod for several reasons. First, she wrote a book about her experience as a juror on the Scott Peterson trial. Second, she wrote Scott Peterson a series of 17 letters while he was in jail, all of them referring to Little Man, which was a nickname she gave Connor. Most importantly, as part of Scott Peterson's motion for new trial, another juror testified that when Rochelle Nice was first moved onto the jury after being an alternate, she entered the jury room saying that Scott Peterson should basically pay for killing Little Man. In 2017, she allegedly was photographed wearing a piece of clothing that said Little Man. Now, what did Rochelle Nice do that might be considered juror misconduct? All of the potential jurors filled out extensive questionnaires. In fact, the questionnaires had 169 questions, most with multiple parts. The defense says that Rochelle Nice gave false answers to two important questions. First, question 54, have you ever been involved in a lawsuit? Rochelle Nice said no. Second, question 74, have you or any close friends or relatives been the victim or witness of a crime? Again, Rochelle Nice said no. Peterson's team says both of those answers are false. Let's look at them one at a time. First, question 54, have you been involved in a lawsuit? Peterson's team says that Rochelle Nice had in fact been involved in not one, but two lawsuits, and they were cases that gave her a reason to figure out a way to get onto the jury to make sure Scott Peterson was convicted. The cases stem from a series of wild events involving Rochelle Nice's then-boyfriend, Eddie Whiteside. Rochelle Nice was pregnant with Eddie Whiteside's child, and Eddie's former girlfriend, Marcella Kinsey, was less than happy. In fact, Kinsey came to Rochelle Nice's house and screamed to Rochelle to come out. Kinsey slashed Eddie Whiteside's tires and kicked in the door of the home where Nice lived with her mother. Over the next months, Kinsey tracked Nice to her new home, called Nice and hung up, told Nice that Kinsey wanted to settle things on the street, and then followed Nice to her workplace in a van. Nice petitioned for a restraining order against Marcella Kinsey and also sued for damages. The two cases were filed in the very courthouse where Scott Peterson's trial took place, and Petersons Council found it hard to believe that Nice had simply forgotten such a dramatic event that had occurred just a few years before the Peterson trial. In the hearing, the judge argued that lawsuit was a term of art, so perhaps Rochelle Nice did not realize that what she had filed was a lawsuit. I personally thought that was a pretty weak argument. Lawsuit is not exactly a technical term. Maybe you could sort of argue that when it came to the restraining order. Maybe people would not think of a restraining order as a lawsuit. But Rochelle Nice also filed a suit for damages, which is pretty clearly a lawsuit. In fact, Rochelle herself called it a lawsuit in her testimony. The second question was question 74. Have you or any close friends or relatives been the victim or witness of a crime? Rochelle Nice answered the question, no, even though Eddie Whiteside's tires had been slashed and her own door had been kicked in. The judge sparred with Peterson's attorneys about whether Rochelle Nice could have believed she was not personally the victim of a crime because it wasn't her car that had the slashed tires, and it wasn't her house that had the door kicked in because the house was owned by a landlord and her mother's name was on the lease. Peterson's lawyer pointed out that Rochelle Nice had lived in the apartment for 9 years. I personally thought it was clear that Rochelle Nice should have answered yes. She herself clearly was the victim of a crime. And furthermore, she was supposed to answer yes even if the crime happened to a close friend or relative. And clearly, crimes happened to Eddie Whiteside and Rochelle Nice's mother, and they were close friends or relatives. Petersons Council also brought up a second incident from November 2nd, 2001, when Eddie Whiteside and Rochelle Nice had an argument. Probably they were arguing over Eddie cheating on Rochelle, Rochelle said. Rochelle Nice handed her baby to her mother to protect him during the altercation. The police were called and noticed Rochelle Nice had a bloody lip, which she said was the result of her braces. Whiteside was arrested and charged with 5 crimes, including false imprisonment and endangering the health of a child. He pled guilty and was given 10 days jail time and required to take domestic violence counseling. At Peterson's hearing, Rochelle's story was really different from the way the incident had been described in the police records. She claimed that she was the one who hit Eddie Whiteside and that he never hit her. Peterson's team noted that Rochelle's new story seemed a little sketch. After all, why would she let Eddie Whiteside be convicted and go to jail for 10 days for something she claimed was all her fault? The judge suggested, well, maybe Rochelle Nice didn't know that Eddie Whiteside was being criminally prosecuted. But Peterson's lawyer pointed out that seemed pretty far-fetched given that they were living together at the time. In my view, Peterson's strongest argument was that Rochelle Nice had gotten a restraining order against Kinsey, Whiteside's former girlfriend, that protected Rochelle Nice's unborn baby. Rochelle argued that she only got it because she was concerned if she got into a fight with Kinsey, Rochelle might end up rolling on the ground and maybe hurting the baby. But Peterson's team pointed out that if that was the only concern, then the court would not have needed to issue a 3-year restraining order. The order could have been lifted after a few months when Rochelle gave birth. Furthermore, when Rochelle Nice was in the hospital having a second child, someone sent her a birthday party video that showed the former girlfriend, Kinsey, holding her first child. Rochelle Nice called either the police or a former friend who was a detective because she was frightened for her child. Peterson's team argued that Rochelle Nice simply was not credible in general. They pointed out that she had given dramatically different answers on several questions. For example, back in 2000, before the Peterson trial took place, the restraining order application filed on Rochelle's behalf said Rochelle does not want Marcella to be able to come anywhere near her child after it is born. Rochelle feels Marcella would try to hurt the baby with all the hate and anger she has for Rochelle. But when the Peterson team asked about the restraining order at the 2022 hearing for a new trial, Rochelle Nice denied any fear. Did you have a genuine fear that she was going to hurt the child? She was asked. Nope. You never were afraid of that? Nope. The state made 3 main arguments. First, they argued that the Peterson team could have produced stronger evidence and apparently chose not to do so. For example, they said that the Peterson team should have introduced evidence of Rochelle Nice's actual lawsuit for damages. The Peterson team fought back by saying they had Rochelle Nice's testimony that she had filed it, so that they didn't need to produce the actual documents from the case. Second, the state argued that none of this mattered because even if Rochelle Nice was biased and did come in saying, let's get Mr. Peterson for what he did to little man, in the end, she followed the rules and the decision was reached mutually by all the jurors. Third, the state argued repeatedly that Rochelle Nice just had a tough time filling out forms. Miss Nice is not very good at filling out forms, which I personally thought was a terrible argument. Being bad at filling out forms does not justify putting down the wrong answer. The judge also landed a solid point with Rochelle Nice's answer to another question, which asked jurors whether they could base their decision entirely on the evidence in court and not on pre-existing attitude. Can you do that, despite what you have read, seen, or heard? Shockingly, Rochelle answered that question no. In other words, saying that she could not base her decision on the evidence only in court and not on her pre-existing attitude. Apparently, Scott Peterson's attorney never followed up with any questions to Rochelle Nice. Peterson's new attorney said he couldn't explain why there was no follow-up, but he figured almost surely the trial attorney figured it was just a mistake. However, while it certainly was a huge oversight, I don't think it's really relevant. So how likely is it that Scott Peterson is going to go free? I'm not the only commentator to say that the judge really seemed reluctant to give Peterson a new trial. She asked a lot of questions of both sides, but she asked more and tougher questions of Peterson's lawyer, and her arguments showed that. Sometimes I thought she was reaching, but you can understand why Judge Masula would be reluctant to order a new trial if you realize what a massive undertaking it would be. This trial was extraordinarily long. Pretrial hearings and jury selection in the first trial started in February 2004. The trial started on June 1st, 2004 and ran through November 12th, 5.5 months. Then the penalty phase ran from November 2004 through March 17, 2005. So it took a full year to try this case. To retry the case, the parties would have to start that entire process over again. The new trial would cost the county millions of dollars more, and the precedent would be serious. Would this mean that every defendant could insist on a lengthy questionnaire, and then after trial was over, if the defendant lost, do investigations to see whether any juror lied or just failed to disclose information? You can see where that would be a really dangerous precedent that would make it hard for the state to have any certainty when it tried criminal cases. It would make people reluctant to be jurors, and it would add a lot of extra hearings at the end of every trial. Anytime a defendant wants a new trial, the chances are low. If you were a betting person, you always lay your odds on no new trial. But in Scott Peterson's case, the California Supreme Court was concerned enough to ask for an investigation. So Judge Masulo has been taking the matter quite seriously. And in my view, Scott Peterson does have some actual evidence to support his claim of juror misconduct. I wouldn't say his case is ironclad, anything like that, but it's a decent case. Judge Masulo asked for more briefing, and once she gets that, she has 90 days to issue a ruling. She certainly seemed to be leaning against granting a new trial. But if that's what she decides, you can bet her decision will be the next appeal. And on that appeal, all bets are off. If you want to know more about the Scott Peterson trial and what the case is all about, be sure to watch this video next.